Brittney Griner is, in fact, a man. One of the videos that give us cause to say that is this video. It is from her Instagram stories from years and years ago. And when it comes to Instagram, they use a combination of like AI detection and plus manual surveyors to make sure that no explicit content ends up on the platform. So clearly whatever AI detection system was used when Brittney posted this and it stayed up for 106 weeks was not like, oh, this is a female chest, we have to take this down. Oftentimes, if breast cancer runs in a family, women will preemptively get like double mastectomies. And there's some great surgeons out there, don't get me wrong, but I don't see any scars on Brittney's chest that would be indicative of a double mastectomy or top surgery for gender transition.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Clark Update. Today we're examining a story that has triggered intense discussion throughout the WNBA community. Reports and online speculation involving Sophie Cunningham and alleged DNA-related evidence connected to Brittney Griner have circulated widely, drawing strong reactions from basketball fans and social media users. But what is genuinely known about these claims? Which details have actually been confirmed, and why has this subject attracted so much attention? Stay with us as we sort through the available information and unpack every important part of this growing controversy. Let's get into it.
Like that, and then she told us that we were effing insane.
A teenage girl reportedly brought a pro-Sophie Cunningham sign to a Seattle Storm game, only to be confronted by someone connected to the team and told to put it away. According to accounts circulating online, the young fan was left in tears after being forced to remove the message. That story has dominated basketball social media for the past couple of days, and those describing the incident insist it was not simply an exaggerated internet rumor. In fact, the details of what allegedly occurred courtside in Seattle may be even more troubling than the headline makes them sound. Beyond the result of one basketball game, the situation raises much larger questions about the current culture surrounding the league. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. More than 90% of the people watching still have not subscribed. It costs nothing, takes only a second, and provides enormous support. Have you subscribed yet? Excellent. We truly appreciate it. Now let's return to the story.
Stop this and stop pulling this. Yeah.
And
For you guys
I
to
hope
come
God
here
can
and
save
pull
you.
this. Yeah.
She said for you to come here and pull this shit.
Yeah.
She said the word?
Yeah.
Did she say effing insane or the fucking
No,
insane?
she said the word. Yeah.
Nobody around you spoke up for you.
No.
So,
No.
I will say, Annalie, when I came over, you were in tears.
Yeah, I've never been yelled at like that. I mean, I've had people hate on me on the internet, but like it doesn't really affect me as much because it's just people online. But that just took me by surprise because I thought she was gonna be nice, and then she starts like screaming at us.
And she motioned like this. Yes, exactly. You have to hold it like this.
That same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah, do you see your advocacy on that, like taking any form going forward?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
Do you think, I guess, along the line like that, it goes against perhaps, some people might say, hey, for the trans community, this could be something that could come back on us or be targeted against us. Like, how do you, I guess, view that sort of critique?
You know, like I said, I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there's room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone.
A teenage girl entered a WNBA arena carrying a sign. The message did not threaten anybody, attack a player, or even mention one person by name. It merely thanked Sophie Cunningham for speaking on behalf of female athletes. According to the fans who were seated nearby, a Seattle Storm co-owner approached the girl during the game and ordered her to put the sign away. The situation unfolded inside a packed arena, and before it was finished, security had reportedly become involved, and the teenager was crying. Think carefully about what that means. At a professional basketball game, an adult with an ownership stake in the home team, allegedly pursued and confronted a child because she was holding a supportive sign.
How the left is completely intolerant and the actual hateful ones. This woman is not an owner of a basketball team. She's an owner of a left-wing, radical, political activist group that happens to play basketball. Because this team has endorsed Kamala Harris for president. They have promoted trans rights on their website and their merchandise. And clearly they hold a double standard and allow people to hold signs like this, but belittle young girls that support their sports remaining female. I don't expect them to do this, but I would really like to see the WNBA protect and stand up for fans just like these two young girls from hate and intolerance.
Several weeks earlier, Sophie Cunningham had been directly asked during an ESPN appearance about protecting women's sports. She did not avoid the subject, disguise her position with vague language, or reshape the answer into something she believed would be more publicly acceptable. Cunningham stated clearly that she wanted young girls to feel protected in locker rooms, that female athletes should not be required to compete against biological males, and that she intended to maintain that belief regardless of the criticism or reaction it produced.
I think it has been so fun. I played with BG for 6 years, and so I know her like the back of my hand. And as of late, she's been playing really good. She's been playing like OG Brittney. I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women. And I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that. But I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
Her response contained no personal insults. She did not attack a specific opponent, teammate, or individual. It was a direct answer to a direct question, delivered calmly and deliberately, like someone expressing a position she had considered carefully, rather than reacting impulsively. But subjects inside this league rarely remain neutral for long. Whether Cunningham intended to connect her comments to any particular person or not, the public quickly began attaching a recognizable name to what she had said.
Some fans at the game booed Cunningham when she checked into the game. One Seattle Storm player even showed up pre-game wearing a shirt that read, "Trans rights are human rights." After the game, Storm coach Sonia Rahman was asked about the situation.
Seattle and this organization and Climate Pledge, we always want to be an area where people feel welcome coming into this building. I think we've always done a really good job with that. So I know our organization was, working closely with Climate Pledge and with security to just make sure that, everybody feels safe and included and welcome when they walk in this door. And from what I understand, that was...
Anyone who has followed the Fever's games against teams featuring Brittney Griner already understands why some fans made that association. Over the last several seasons, supporters have closely examined Griner's on-court encounters with Caitlin Clark, pointing to physical contact they believed officials ignored, a bench exchange from the previous year that remains debated frame by frame, and officiating that critics say seemed inconsistent whenever the players shared the floor. So when Cunningham, one of Clark's closest teammates and most vocal defenders, publicly declared that biological men should not compete in women's sports, many viewers believed the timing carried its own message. For those fans, no additional explanation was necessary to connect the remarks to the larger conversation.
You have Sophie Cunningham, a female athlete herself, very accomplished in her own right, coming forth and speaking that truth that men shouldn't play in women's sports. We want to protect women and girls, and the backlash she is receiving from Democrats and left-wing thinkers across the country is a...
Griner has never publicly confirmed that Cunningham's comments were specifically aimed at her. In a separate interview shortly before the controversy intensified, however, she reportedly said that competing against Cunningham could be extremely frustrating, even while acknowledging that she would still choose to have a teammate like her standing nearby. People can interpret that statement however they choose. What cannot be disputed is that the online reaction to Cunningham's comments quickly became widespread, loud, and impossible to ignore.
Applaud her enough. This notion that you're hating on the trans community because you are not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights? What about fairness associated to them? Leah Thomas, I'm going to keep bringing that name up. 400 plus in the world competing as a male. Transitions to female, and he was number one. If we're gonna act like transitioning from male to female doesn't involve an advantage for that trans athlete, I have nothing to say to you. You're not exercising.
Within approximately 48 hours, the discussion had spread across the national media landscape. USA Today covered the story. ESPN referenced portions of the controversy on several programs the following morning. Fox News devoted a national segment to the issue. The White House press secretary also publicly suggested that Cunningham stood on the side of an argument shared by a large portion of the American public. Regardless of how league officials felt about the attention, that represented an extraordinary response to one candid answer from a WNBA role player during a feature interview. The conversation had expanded far beyond basketball, and Cunningham had never asked for the story to grow in the way that it did.
Comes out last week and talks about her beliefs, which I do think is very rare, especially being as young as she is, and quite honestly being brave to share something she knows is going to get picked apart a million times, and then standing by it. That's refreshing, especially from a young woman.
What Cunningham did afterward deserves even more attention because it separated her from many athletes who face similar pressure. Reporters approached her again days later, seemingly expecting her to clarify the statement, soften the language, make it less specific, or retreat from the position entirely. She did none of those things. Cunningham repeated essentially the same belief, while explaining that she did not hate anyone and genuinely believed there should be room for everybody. At the same time, she made clear that she would not abandon an honestly held conviction simply because a group of critics wanted her to change it. That does not resemble someone manufacturing outrage for publicity. It resembles an athlete who received a fair question, gave an honest answer, and refused to pretend she had not meant it once the pressure arrived.
She's covering your sign.
That brings the story to Seattle, where the controversy reportedly moved beyond social media and directly affected a real teenager attending a real game in front of witnesses. On paper, Tuesday night's matchup between the Indiana Fever and Seattle Storm should have centered entirely on basketball. Before tip-off, however, a relatively small crowd gathered outside Climate Pledge Arena. Some participants said they had come specifically to support Cunningham, while others were promoting a Washington ballot measure connected to fairness in girls' athletics. Several people wore clothing displaying XX and XY symbols, and others carried signs. The demonstration was not presented as an attack against one particular Storm player. Instead, it focused on Cunningham, the wider debate she had entered weeks earlier, and a policy discussion that had already been developing across the state.
There's signs that said, like, we love Sophie, like, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up. And so we were holding on, just watching the game. Again, like, we were being super great. We hadn't said anything to anyone else. We were being super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. And this lady, older lady, comes up to us. And she comes up to us, and at first I think she's going to be nice. And then she asks, like, what are you guys doing? Something like that. And then it was like, Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. And I was like, oh, I know. Like, I'm religious. Like, I know. Like, I know.
Nice.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And like, something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane.
Two supporters later entered the building and took courtside seats while carrying a banner thanking Cunningham for standing up for girls. Brandy Cruz of the Undivided podcast, who said she spoke directly with the fans afterward, reported that a woman approached them during the game, called them completely insane, and caused security to remove them from their seats. Members of the crowd later identified that woman as Celeste Keaton, described as a minority owner of the Storm. One of the supporters explained that the speed with which an ordinary night at a basketball game became confrontational and deeply personal left the teenage fan crying before the exchange had even concluded.
And he just talked a little bit all the way up from California before.
Yeah.
We are Women Are Real. I had this crazy idea on Thursday that I wanted to support Sophie. We've gone all around California supporting female athletes, and I just said, we can go to Seattle and we can support female athletes. And Brandy was right there ready to help us, and thank you all for showing up. We just have simple belief that women are adult human females, and women deserve their own female-only sports and spaces, especially prisons and domestic violence shelters.
Yes.
We are 180.
Now examine the imbalance at the center of the situation. Outside the arena, people representing different positions on the issue had gathered in the same area. According to those present, no one from one side crossed over simply to confront or intimidate people expressing the opposing viewpoint. That distinction matters. Nobody argued that a team owner should be prohibited from entering her own arena or wearing clothing that reflected her personal beliefs. Yet a member of the home team's ownership group allegedly confronted a teenage visiting fan who was quietly displaying a thank you message for an opposing player and instructed her to remove it in front of thousands of spectators.
The way I look, I literally just left CrossFit, don't have any recording material here, but breaking news, Storm co-owner Celeste Keaton was fined and suspended from attending the next 5 home games of the Seattle Storm following the incident with Fever fans last night, in which she made a comment about one of their players' supporters. That came directly from the league. So that's the latest on this developing story. So there it is.
The most obvious question is unavoidable. If clothing supporting one political position can receive applause throughout the building, why would a sign reading "Thank you for standing up for girls" allegedly cause a fan to be confronted by team ownership? What does that reveal about the culture operating inside the organization? The message was not vulgar or disrespectful. It did not identify or directly attack a Storm player. It merely expressed agreement with Sophie Cunningham. Jenny Gilder, identified as the team's majority owner, later issued a statement saying that every person attending a Storm game should feel welcome regardless of personal beliefs. The statement acknowledged that a member of ownership had spoken with 2 fans and included an apology. But notice what it reportedly did not explain. It did not clearly identify Keaton, provide a detailed account of what was said to the fans, clarify why security became involved, or say whether meaningful accountability would follow. To critics, it sounded less like an effort to confront the incident directly and more like carefully constructed language intended to make an uncomfortable story quietly disappear.
To stand 10 toes down, and Sophie Cunningham was quoted as saying, "I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in sports who shouldn't have to go against biological men." Megan Rapinoe's such a fucking bird. Like, she's such a fucking bird. Biological men should not be playing in sports with biological men, period. End of discussion. It shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't be a cause for debate. It shouldn't be labeled transphobia because you don't want to have to compete with people who were born biological men and have biological advantages that women will never have and never be able to have for the rest of their life. I always ask the question, why do we never see like biological women transitioning to be men and playing in men's sports? Why? Why don't we ever see that? Why is it always biological men transitioning to women and coming over to play with women?
Once all the surrounding arguments are removed, that is the central issue. Sophie Cunningham did not create this situation by attacking anyone. She answered a question honestly, defended the same position when challenged, and then watched as a teenage supporter was allegedly treated like a security concern simply for agreeing with her publicly. A team owner should not confront paying fans over a peaceful shirt or sign at a basketball game, regardless of which side of a political or cultural argument those fans support. The fact that this particular treatment was directed toward people supporting Cunningham is why critics believe tolerance within certain areas of the league is being applied selectively rather than consistently.
Trans people live. Nobody has a problem with trans people and what they do on their own time. It's just in regards to what Sophie said is when it comes to sports. Women, biological women should play sports against biological women. Men should play against men because the simple reason for it is because scientifically just men are stronger, faster, bigger.
The controversy also did not arise in isolation, which helps explain why it spread so rapidly. Roughly 1 week earlier, another WNBA player appeared to receive noticeably fewer minutes shortly after her own comments about protecting women's sports began receiving attention across the league. There was no formal declaration, only what some observers interpreted as a quiet rotation change followed by vague explanations. Nothing explicit was announced, and there may be no single decision that can withstand scrutiny when examined independently. Yet critics argue that pressure does not always have to be expressed openly inside a locker room. Sometimes a subtle change in playing time or an ambiguous public comment is enough for everyone else watching to understand what message may be communicated. That is why people online continue asking whether the WNBA is prepared to accommodate nearly every viewpoint except the one Cunningham expressed. The alleged incident in Seattle keeps that question alive. Her comments were not delivered as an extreme personal attack, and support for competitive fairness in women's athletics is not limited to a tiny fringe of the public. Surveys have indicated that many Americans agree with her position on this specific issue. The concern is that an athlete may become a target in certain league environments merely for stating that belief calmly, honestly, and without naming an individual. Cunningham has now appeared before reporters more than once, and despite expectations that she might offer a softer version, has consistently repeated what she believes. Whether the response takes the form of a coaching staff quietly reducing someone's minutes, or a team co-owner allegedly approaching a crying teenager and ordering her to remove a sign inside a packed arena, Sophie Cunningham is no longer the only subject under examination. The larger question is whether the league and its teams will continue treating her supporters differently from everybody else, or whether Wednesday's carefully written apology will be enough to make one uncomfortable headline fade away before another inevitably emerges somewhere else.